Welcome to a special edition of the Titan Protection Show. We are here in the SiriusXM Studio in the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas, and it is ISC West 2026. We are doing a special series blending security, physical security with technology, and we've got a great lineup of speakers. We're talking AI, we're talking software, and of course drones. Have some great speakers from different manufacturers that are coming and talking about how these things are blending with physical security. It's an exciting time. This show traditionally has been integrators. I've been coming to it for 15 plus years, and it's exciting to see how it's changing and how it's morphing into integrators, physical security directors, folks that traditionally weren't attending on the technology side. We're seeing these worlds collide together. We're tackling it from a couple different angles, and you will hear some insights from the industry leaders who are down deep in it. Hope you enjoy the show. Exciting series coming, and look forward to it. Welcome to another special edition of the Titan Protection Show. We are in Las Vegas at ISC West 2026 in the SiriusXM Studio at the Wynn Hotel, and we are doing a special series on blending security, physical security with technology. Really excited to be here with Alex from Sunflower Labs, the CEO. Alex Pacheco, thank you so much for coming. Excited to talk today. We've been working together for years. We've been following this. You've got a really interesting drone in a box product. A lot of things we've seen, really kind of wowed by the speed of deployment with your product and some of the software features that you've got, AI being a piece too. Really appreciate you coming on today and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, I want to give the audience kind of an overview of who Sunflower Labs is. How did you get started? Have you always been focused on security? Where did you start, and kind of how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks. A bit of a personal story. I live in a house. There's a forest behind my house, and stuff happens in the forest. Sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's teenagers. You never know, just making a lot of noises. And we had an incident one time. I don't want to get into the gory details, but we woke up, there's police, there's a coroner there's a bunch of stuff, and we were really freaked out. And the thing that really bothered us is that we heard something, like we were sitting out back and we heard some noises, and we were just like, hey, what's that? And we didn't investigate. And how would you? It's nighttime. It's a forest. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I was a drone enthusiast at the time. I was basically building racing drones, just flying some commercial drones, playing around with them. And so my thought was that, oh man, I wish I had a drone that was just sitting there and I can deploy it to go take a look if I hear something. And so it was kind of a throwaway thought, I thought it would be kind of cool. End up talking to an old buddy of mine, and he's an aerospace engineer. And I said to him, I told him the story and I said this idea, and he thought it was cool too. And then like 2 weeks later, he basically showed me a working prototype of it. And when I thought, well, that could be this could be a real product. He was working somewhere else at the time. I was just kind of looking for something new to do. And so I told to him that if I can raise money for this, would you quit your job and join me and do this as a company? And he said yes. And then unfortunately we did raise money, and then we got stuck doing this.
Well, what year was this?
This was 2016.
Okay. Yeah. And the working prototype, was that the drone in the docking station in the box, or was it just the drone?
We right away knew that it needs to live in a box. Right. We knew that it needs to live outdoors. There were no drone in the boxes at the time at all. That was not a thing. And so when we designed our system, and if you look at our website, if you look at what the drone looks like, you will see it's got this cone shaped, and we designed it to be that way because we designed the base station to be the receptacle, to be the inverse of it. Basically, we knew that the number one most important thing for autonomous systems is precision landing. So the system is designed for landing first, right? A lot of people design the drones to fly. That makes sense, right? Except it's sort of backwards thinking, right? It needs to land it needs to recharge, it needs to self-diagnose, and then it needs to fly again. So the design process needs to follow that as well. So we designed the landing system, and the drone wasn't even flying. I'm not kidding. We had a dummy, and we tossed it like a Frisbee into this funnel, and it landed always in the center. Yeah, and then we could figure out where the charging pins would be, so it would charge, and then we did all of the hardware, software, and then it was flying. So we designed it literally backwards.
And I mean, I can't tell you from an engineering perspective or from, watching this all transpire how prescient that was as far as that piece of it. Did you have a background in this or have knowledge of that was an important piece, or did it just kind of work out that way?
Nope, no background. My career seems to be random. I studied astrophysics, really intended to do astrophysics, didn't do any of that. Went to Silicon Valley, was one of the founding members of a company called Evernote. So did essentially cloud-based productivity software for 10 years. And so this is from 2005 till 2015.
Kidding. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So there's about 8 of us who essentially built the company. My father is the original founder, and then there was a team that was kind of put together that created Evernote, and then we took it from 0 users to 250 million.
Wow.
So that was cool. Very different business. And I knew when I wanted to do something next. I wanted to do a startup again, and I wanted to do something completely different. And so with pretty much no experience in drones besides just building a little FPV racer and just thinking like, this could be something. So I have 2 co-founders, Chris and Nick, and both of them are like proper engineers.
Okay.
And so Chris is an aviation engineer. He worked at aviation companies, designed hardware for manned aircraft. And then Nick is a drone engineer, robotics engineer, computer vision, kind of all of the modern sort of stuff that the drone needs to do. And so the 3 of us, so like they're the engineers and I'm the crazy one. And then we have to find a middle ground between like some crazy ideas and what is physically possible to achieve.
Yeah. Well, no, that's incredible. I did not know that portion of the backstory, but that's super interesting. And on that precision landing piece, we've been following this for years, and we've really needed beyond visual line of sight and the docking station.
Yeah.
Nobody was making docking stations because visual line of sight was still needed. So I think a lot of manufacturers that were making drones and now are trying to adopt the box side are finding that precision landing to be the engineering feat. It seems, like a simple thing to do, but your system, that cone-shaped receptacle, is a very interesting piece. You've also got a pretty interesting software stack and an AI portion that I wanted to talk a little bit more about it. And just for context, our partnership revolves a lot around, the deployment, but then also the remote piloting piece behind there and putting the whole ecosystem and thing together. So we fly a lot of different things and have seen a lot, of differences. For Sunflower Labs specifically, one of the things that always wows me, even, to this day, has been the speed of deployment. When the drone launches, there's a lot of health check, a lot of different things that it goes through. When you hit launch on your drone, you're up within 2 seconds and it's flying and moving around.
Yeah.
I think it's quicker than that, but it
is 5, but I appreciate it. It does seem nearly instantaneous.
Yeah, and it's super important, especially on the security side, to get up in the air quickly.
Absolutely.
And to be able to see those things. The other one that was interesting, and I talk about it quite a bit, when we started doing this service for customers, we would have to get insurance policies, right? And we were thinking originally that the insurance underwriters were going to be most concerned with, is the drone going to fall out of the air and that type of thing. We found them most to be concerned with privacy of images, data, that type of thing. You have a very unique part of your software. Draw a geofence around the property that we're protecting. When the drone's up in the air, it blurs everything out. Super unique, super helpful for, what's outside of the property and kind of protecting that. I think it's really important when we're talking about new technologies like this, we set the table properly for things like this, because you're not going to stuff the drone back in the bag here. This is out, in the wild. So tell us a little bit about that blurring feature and how that came about and how you're using that today.
Yeah. So the blurring is actually an incredible feat, because you can't just blur it's not just like a box that you draw, right? So what you need to understand is where you are, what you're looking at in 3D. And then you create a blur mask which outlines anything that is in the image which is outside of the geocage. And we actually extended the feature recently, so it doesn't have to just blur the geocage of the property. So it's not just everything outside it, but it can blur specific things within your property. So let's say you have a pool, you like to swim naked, you can automatically have the pool blurred. Let's say you have a neighbor and or series of neighbors and you want to protect a neighborhood, but you have one neighbor who doesn't want you looking at their property. You would just blur their home and be able to open the other ones. And this happens, so this is kind of part of the computer vision stack. This happens at 25 frames per second, dynamically corrected to the position of the drone, and even it considers if the drone is, if it's windy, if the drone is slightly tilted or shaking, and it creates this dynamic blur mask over anything you shouldn't be seeing at any given time. How it came together is we had a customer that basically said that they could not deploy the system because there's not neighbors but businesses nearby that might have an issue with it. It wasn't even clear that they had an issue, and it was just a requirement for them to be able to use our drone. And so I honestly didn't know if it was possible. I thought it would be just too difficult of a problem to do in real time, right? You can do it in post, but to do it in real time. But we had a terrific engineer at the time, Yannick, who basically, I don't know, just started playing with it, and one thing led to another, and then he gave me a demo of this, and I just kind of remember looking at this, going like, how is this possible? How is this happening this fast? So it was definitely a cool feature. We then deployed it with that customer, and you know what they said? This is my favorite part of it. They said, okay, can this be disabled? And we're like, yeah, like, obviously, but like, you made us like build this feature, like, why do you? They said, oh, no, they need this feature, but what if a crime happens and the guy hops the fence and goes somewhere else? They need the footage to see what happens there. So then we thought about it some more, and we're like, okay, fine. So this can be essentially a dynamic mask that's placed on top of the image that the operator sees, but then the raw video is teed off, and then a non-blurred version is stored at like an escrow location so that you can't access unless you have like a police order or something like that. So you then kind of satisfy all of the needs. You have unblurred footage for crime investigation, you have blurred footage for operators and protection of the privacy, and now you even have the ability to dynamically unblur different parts of it. So if you needed to, for example, see your pool, right, or you need to see something else, you can then set your defaults for blurring and then have a special case where like, I really need to take a look over here. And all of this just happens in real time as the drone is flying.
Wow. Super interesting. And from the software perspective, have always been impressed by that piece. The other part, the AI portion of that, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. As the drone is flying around, it can do things like tell you if a garage door is open, if a package is on a porch, if there's people outside, if there's a vehicle somewhere. Talk a little bit about the AI capabilities and how that's being used in a security aspect. Yeah,
this is another example of designing backwards. So we designed the system to be autonomous first. So there actually is no joystick. So sometimes you have people coming to us and say, I want a joystick, I want to fly. It's like, yeah, that's not what it is. It's autonomous first because it knows how to fly better than you, right? We don't want to trust, humans shouldn't fly drones. I think it's silly that humans fly drones. Like drones should fly themselves. Humans should direct the drones. You should tell them what you want to look at, and the drone should find the best place to observe that location, considering all the obstacles and privacy and everything else. So when we designed the drone from the very beginning, we designed it to be autonomous. And it's still a scary word in a regulatory space, right? Yeah. They're like, how could it be autonomous? So we need to say it's automatic or something, or fully automatic, but with the ability of a human to override. And so we do have that capability. We have the ability for a human to pause the operation. And then we have some really basic controls for them to be able to kind of use the PTZ, look around, reposition it. And then there is some emergency controls. Sure. And so those are really the only buttons. So effectively, an operator has like 7 buttons that they can push, but I would say 99% of our operations, no buttons are pushed by a human. Everything happens completely autonomously. autonomously, there is a remote pilot in command who sits there and looks at the screen for regulatory compliance reasons and has the ability to push an emergency button if they need to, and they never need to, and they never have to because the drone reacts. So we have about 20 or 30 different emergency classes that we understand automatically, and we react to them automatically. I'll give you an example. This is a kind of always felt as a silly thing, that one of the reasons that you need a human pilot in command is to deal with C2 link issues. So you have a radio loss. But how is the remote pilot supposed to deal with it when there's a radio loss, right? Whereas the drone knows what to do, right? It knows the last time it had radio, it knows how to come back, it knows how to, right? And it will automatically execute its emergency procedure, right? And so we go through every class of possible emergency, we present what the autonomous response is going to be, we validate it, we test it, and in our approvals, we documented all of this. So one of the reasons we have the approvals that we do is because we basically demonstrated that there's almost no reason. There's almost nothing that the human can do better at this point. Nevertheless, we are required to have a remote pilot present, and we work with folks like you to provide that. And those people are required to have a Part 107 pilot license, which is hilarious because it means that they have to study sectional charts, and they need to study
based off manned aircraft.
Yeah, but it's what sectional charts applicable to drones anymore, right?
Or METARs.
I got the pilot license. I read the sectional chart. I thought it was awesome. I love learning stuff like that, but it was mostly just out of archaic curiosity, right?
It was for the product of not knowing what to do or how to deal with it. I mean, even if you in the visual line of sight flying of a drone, you can watch anybody fly a drone. The first thing they do is they go right down to the screen. They're not watching. You get a much better perspective out of that piece. And then, as we're seeing Part 108 come out, the FAA seems to be taking this approach that you just described of the drones flying autonomously. So we're holding companies more responsible than we are individual pilots. And, we love the crawl, walk, run approach. And we see this being a one-to-one, one-to-many, and then eventually none-to-many. Our role in that still is that last mile of, okay, the drone's detected something, what do we do and how do we do this? Very similar to our camera monitoring
Well, yes, and now getting back to AI, so I talked about autonomy, but getting back to AI, now the new design, the new systems, the new UI, it's basically AI first. So we don't think what is important to you is to see the footage from the drone. What we think is important for you is to see the interpretations of what the drone detected within the confines of your property and your limits to what you basically need to see. So the examples you gave, right, is that, there's a person in the backyard, right? Okay, maybe it's you, it's a resident, right? The drone can actually analyze and detect it and say it's a resident in the backyard, or it's a gardener, right? And then if we can't conclusively say that this is something benign, we will just say unknown. So we're not saying there's a criminal in the backyard, we're just not sure. There's somebody and we don't have a clear understanding why there's a person there. I had a situation where there was a guy at my front door, drone flew out, it's a delivery guy. It sees he has a uniform, he has a package, he has a UPS truck behind him. So great, that's important information to me. I need to go get my package, but that's maybe not a security issue. And then we can do things like we call risks and hazards analysis. So we look for weapons, we look for damage, we look for graffiti, we look for open doors, broken windows, fallen trees. There's a whole class of things that the system will look for, and only if it detects that, it will inform you. So then the UI completely flips, right? The typical drone UI is video feed, a bunch of buttons, kind of a HUD control with a bunch of things. And we think that's backwards too. We think what you should see is any detections above a threshold which are relevant. So we'll say something like, there's a guy wearing a hoodie with a crowbar. Yeah, that's probably something we should look into, right? But our drones fly, 8 hours a day in some cases. So we have 8 hours of footage. Who's watching 8 hours of footage, right? So that's that we think, especially when we can do zero to many operations, that's what changes, right? You get an alert occasionally with an image and maybe a really short video of what's relevant to you, and everything else just happens passively and goes about its day.
And that's where I think the software and AI become really important in the one-to-many and none-to-many is a couple different reasons. The FAA seems to be most interested in how do you handle the other drones that are in the air if you have a challenge with one or you're dealing with one? So that's software related. The other side of that we've learned as we've gotten our one-to-many waiver, now you have the complexity of multiple drones in the air. You don't have one pilot that can watch looking for everything. You have to rely on the software to tell you where there's something and direct you to that. And that's something that I think y'all are at the forefront of, and it's exciting to see that.
Yeah, we can tell you if there's an emergency in terms of vehicle health and vehicle operation. We can tell you if there's a security incident or at least something questionable that you should, review yourself. But I think the rest of it is, it's just benign footage, security footage, drone flying over a parking lot, nothing happening. What's the purpose of wasting humans' time?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, definitely, I would encourage anybody that's out there, if you're at the show, ISC West, stop by. You are at the alarm.com booth. And that's booth number 14039. You're also showing the product in the secure passage booth and Talkaphone integrations, certainly around alarm.com and Talkaphone type of thing. I would encourage anybody to stop by and take a look at it, see the software, see the demos. It's exciting stuff. I got to see a peek behind the curtain of what's coming next. Yeah. And I know we're keeping that quiet for now, but I can definitely tell you from what I've seen, you guys have some incredible things on the way. So excited to see this progress, and certainly appreciate you coming on and chatting with us a little bit. We'll have your LinkedIn, links to the website, everything, so folks can reach out if they have any questions. Highly encourage you to stop by the booth and say hello. Is there anything you want to leave the security director, somebody that's walking the show floor, maybe you weren't able to make ISC West, where would you tell somebody to start if they are looking at how to bring drones into their security ecosystem?
I guess many things. Our general philosophy is security guards should be flying. I think flying security guards are much more effective than walking security guards. And we hope that our system can augment an existing team and give them an eye in the sky. So if there is a site that is too large or too difficult for human to cover on foot to be able to observe, definitely consider augmenting that team with a drone-in-the-box solution, whether it's ours or the other folks that you've talked to. I think everybody in the space is just trying to create this new paradigm, create this new world where we can just have much better, much more robust, much more privacy-sensitive security all around us.
Yeah, no, well said. And you're definitely leading the frontier there, and it's exciting to see things transpired. Really appreciate the partnership and appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next time.